Rara Imler, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing? What's up? How's your day?
I'm great. I'm kind of, I guess, an early bird as far as entertainers go. So I've been up for like 3 hours or so. So I'm ready to go with my day. Yeah, it's good. It's
Do you like
good
rise
ass.
with? Do you rise with the sun?
God, I
Yeah,
wish. I
you
wish I
know.
could do that. No, I'm trying to get to that point because I do love sunrise. I
Hmm.
think it's such a magical time of day, and like as human beings, it's so important to like just be present for that event, you know? So I'm really doing my best to start going to bed early and like waking up earlier. But, I am also like ADHD and I'm up at all weird hours. So yeah.
Well, Rara, of course, we've invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. In that spirit, thank you for being willing to join us today and talk to us a little bit about your life, etc. One thing I love to do is just loop back and just ask how we know each other. And our story, I think, is that you were one of Kenzo Shibata's first guests on his show, which is now called Meet the Left,
Mhm.
and then we did a little work together, and yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were always like a person with, really uh not to be all woo-woo about it, but really good energy and, you're a friend of Kenzo's. So any comrade of Kenzo's is a comrade of mine. So yeah, it's fun to do streams. Like I like doing other people's streams more than my own because it's like pressure's off. I don't have to worry about any of the production side. It's
Yeah.
just coming on and talking to people. So
Hell yeah. And Rara, we did skip one thing. If you don't mind, just real quick, introduce yourself, your name, and where
oh.
people can find you.
So my name is Rara Imler, she, her pronouns. You probably know me from Twitter at Island Goth. That's probably where I spend most of my online, like social media, whatever. But you maybe have also heard my podcast, Hot Girl Agenda, which I co-host with Yessi Padilla. And we also have a Twitter account now. It's at Hot Girl Agenda. And we create basically like femme leftist agitprop. And we kind of like have an emphasis on having femme and femme identifying guests. And we've been doing a lot of really cool episodes lately. And we actually have a joint bonus episode coming out with Tanya from the Trillbillies.
Hmm,
And that's going to be dropping May 26th on the full moon. So look out for that.
that's really cool. Do you mind if
Yeah.
we just like pause and allow you to spell a couple things out for my baby brain and other folks who are like new leftists?
Sure.
First of all, agitprop is just sort of like just propaganda trying to like get people whipped up, excited.
Yeah, yeah. Like basically, Yessie and I are both anti-capitalists.
Mhm.
I don't like to say leftist too much anymore because I
Hmm.
think that is a very oversaturated term with the online community.
Mhm.
And I know that the online left is a thing, and for lack of a better word, that's what we call a lot of people. But Yessie and I are explicitly anti-capitalist, and I think that's really important when you are creating political media is to kind of have your bearings as far as like your relation to capital
Mhm.
and what your goals are in like socialist movements. So yeah, we try to create fun propaganda and
Yeah.
try to make it educational sometimes, but really it's more just like conversation between us and whoever we admire and whoever's work we think is cool.
Wonderful. You also mentioned femme, but you didn't say feminist. Can you spell that out for me? Hold my hand through that.
So femme is like FEMME. And we don't say feminist because we are like when we say femme, it's like, I guess people that identify as female or people that identify like as on the like femme to masc spectrum, like on more on the femme side.
Mhm.
So we are very girly. We are very sincere. We are very much into the bright and the shiny and the pretty and the fluffy. And we're very unapologetic about that. And I really think that what we're doing is trying to create a space where that is allowed and that is encouraged because I think people look at feminine aesthetics and they don't take feminine aesthetics seriously. They don't take feminine people seriously as you know, as political people, as like fully fleshed out human beings. And this is kind of like an attempt to change the narrative around that and to be more inclusive. And the reason we say femme instead of woman is because we want to include our trans and trans non-binary comrades and include all genders. So hot girl agenda, even though it seems like a gender term, we always say hot girl agenda. Hot girl shit is not about gender. It's like about action. So you could be a hot girl if you wanted, Dan.
I feel empowered, and I appreciate that. Of course, we had Yezi on, the other half of the Hot Girl Agenda, and it was so fun to talk. And now I've Pokemoned the Hot Girl Agenda, the whole squad. Now I've caught them all. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for spelling those things out for me. I really appreciate that. I might do that from time to time. But what we should do is actually move on and make sure that we're staying on track, and that's my job here. What I'd love for you to do is, if you want to talk a little bit more, we could take a few minutes, talk a little bit more about what you do on your project, as well as what else is keeping you busy, professionally or you're leftism related. I know you're involved in DSA, in Hotlanta, and I know I'm sorry, I wish I could take that back. In Atlanta, and I know that and you do mutual aid, and yeah, we just go from there.
Yeah. So in regards to Hot Girl Agenda, what we attempt to do on the podcast, and I was doing a stream for a while, but I just found it was like kind of, it was very time consuming, as you very well know. And I was just like really overwhelmed. And I was like, well, I want to just focus on podcasting and creating like cool things for people to listen to. But what I noticed in like the online left community and the podcast community especially is there really weren't a lot of spaces for femme folks to kind of congregate around. And, when you're listening to leftist podcasts, a lot of the times you'll look at the list of podcasts. Like I follow a lot of different podcasts. I listen to a lot. A lot of the times when national events happen, everyone's talking about it at the same time. Everyone kind of has a similar roster of guests and similar topics that they're talking about from week to week. And we were trying to basically just create something different, kind of shine a light on guests who maybe don't have a humongous online platform, or maybe they're working on a super critical project that they just need more eyes and ears on. Right. So that is kind of like what it is about, is very like indie. It's very DIY. And we like that kind of spirit because that's, those are the communities we come from. I come from, I was very like punk adjacent, when I was younger. Not so much now. I'm kind of like more of an introvert now. But and then Yessie is from San Diego and, is in more like community organizing circles than I am in. And so we kind of just like wanted to do something different than other podcasts were doing. Sometimes there's some overlap, but I think we have some really interesting guests that, you don't necessarily hear a lot from on leftist podcasts.
Absolutely. I think so.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I forgot to talk about
please keep going. Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to ask. So right now, some of the organizing stuff I'm working on, I primarily do my work with DSA Atlanta. I used to be on the steering committee last year. This year, I'm just a member of a couple of different committees in my chapter, as well as running for convention delegate for my chapter. We have 19 delegates, like spots this year for the convention. So it's a pretty crowded race right now. But I'm really excited. I really do hope that people vote for me. I should have included that link, but whatever. But I'm really excited about that because it would be my first time attending convention as a delegate. And I'm pretty much, I would say, like, categorically, I am a communist. So I really believe in structure, in organizational discipline, and in creating an organizational structure that is conducive to revolution. So I'm very excited to be part of that. And on the other side of what I do, outside of DSA, I am helping form a Exotic Dancers Union for dancers in Atlanta. And I'm doing that with 3 other local Black organizers who are, just incredible, incredible women. And we just had our first focus group and mixer last week, where we kind of invited members from dancers from the community and talked about their issues and what they would like to see happen in a union and what membership would look like to them. So lots of cool stuff happening in Atlanta right now. It's very exciting.
Oh, that's really great, Rara. Congrats on that. Hopefully, that definitely feels like a seed we'll be able to return to. I'm really hoping to, got my fingers crossed. Hopefully, good things happen with that. Otherwise, it's all learning shit, and hopefully we'll be able to learn from you that way. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Anything else we want to talk about? Your current projects, be them professional, leftist related?
No, I think I'm pretty busy with the organizing stuff. I dance for a living. I do the podcasting thing on the side. So I stay pretty busy.
Awesome. Then my next question is about hobbies. Like, what keeps you busy when you're not busy?
Oh God, hobbies. What are those even? I consider podcasting a hobby. It's definitely not a profession, yet. I don't know if it ever will be, but I really enjoy it as a format. I was doing comedy for a really long time, for the better part of a decade, until COVID hit. So I'm kind of maybe slowly dipping my toes back into that, just as a hobby, though. I was, kind of over it professionally, but but lately I have been playing a lot of Breath of the Wild. I've been completely obsessed with it for the last 2 months. So it's kind of, the ADHD part of my brain is not quite over my obsession with it yet. So it takes up a lot of my free time.
You played on a Switch. Oh, that's fun. That's the one game I didn't get, and I feel bad about it.
Well, I don't know. I'm hesitant to tell people to buy it because it is a time suck. I literally will look up from playing after 3 hours and be like, whoa, okay, I got to take a break.
That's a good game.
It's a beautiful game too. It's one of those games where it's just beautiful to look at. So
yeah, I've heard good things. Amazing that they're able to do that with the Switch. Okay, so Rara, what I'd love to ask next is about your leftward bound journey. Yeah, so this is a little chat about your pathway to the left. You've already mentioned you identify as communist. How about we just sort of talk about that, big steps along the way, things that convinced you, and we'll just see where this goes.
Yeah, so I think my left journey started definitively when I was in high school around 15 or 16. That's when I first read the Communist Manifesto. And, when I was 13, 14, 15, was listening to a lot of punk music, and it was still the Bush era, the Bush years. So I was listening to a lot of anti-Bush punk music and I think actually that was my first foray into anti-capitalist thought was punk music, which is just so great because it really does show you how art can influence your politics and vice versa. And so I listened to a lot of your standard punk music from the early 2000s to late 2000s, NoFX, Rancid, Anti-Flag. It was a lot of mainstream punk stuff because I lived on Guam. We didn't have an underground punk scene or whatever. So, but I definitely started sharpening my politics when I started reading Marxist theory. And I kind of almost immediately identified it as a communist. I've gone through different iterations of my beliefs over the years, but I always kind of come back and land on communist. And I think that's kind of where I have settled. In my ideology. Yeah.
Cool. Love having the commies on the show.
Yeah. We need more representation.
Yeah. It was sort of beginning of pandemic. I'm am I a leftist? And now I'm I think I'm a communist.
There we go. Yeah.
Pandemic does things to people here. Okay, so we've touched on a couple of different things. You've read some Marxist theory, the Commie Manifesto. the punk music was pulling you left. I wonder what else we could touch on if we could dig in a little bit more here. Any other aspects, Rara, of politics, or if you want to talk about what the Communist Manifesto or other Marxist theory convinced you of intellectually, or anything else sort of that pulled you to the left emotionally? What were some of the bigger things that we might be able to point at if we could?
Well, I think when I was younger, definitely the pull of communist theory was, the underlying ideology of, workers controlling the means of production and a government representing the work, representative of and consisting of workers. That really appealed to me as a, working class teen person who, both my parents are school teachers. Well, they're both retired now, but both my parents were school teachers my entire life. And I saw them really struggle. I saw them treated really badly by the system. And I saw them, and their colleagues and their friends and my family, just really have difficulty navigating the world we live in, and communism kind of seemed like an antidote to the chaos, and I really did latch on to that. It also kind of started as a little bit of an edgelord thing because when you're a teen, I was I went to high school in late 2000s. So there weren't a lot of communists running around in my high school. So it kind of became a badge of honor of I'm a fucking communist. What? And as I got older, that matured into, actually reading more theory and learning more about the world around me and how to interact with it. And learning more about imperialism and colonization, which is especially important to me as, a person from a colonized land. So I'm from Guam. So it's we are very much under the U.S. military's thumb, pretty much, since around the 1940s. So we have a very interesting relationship with U.S. hegemony. Sorry, I hate saying that word out loud because I read it, but you can't. Yeah,
hegemony. I'm gonna practice.
When you read it, you're that's how it's pronounced. Hegemony. But on an emotional level, I think communism really speaks to me because I am a person that desires structure. And I believe that we do need to have these parallel structures in place in order to have any kind of chance of fighting back against capitalism. And that's kind of why I keep landing on communism as a form of government and an economic system, because I really do believe that these are massive systems that we have to take down. There has to be something there to replace it that is better. And I would like to work towards that.
Rara, you just mentioned parallel structures. I'm not sure I was following there. Can you hold my hand?
So when we talk about building parallel structures to capitalism, we, as it is our responsibility as anti-capitalists, as socialists, whoever you are in the movement towards revolution, we have to make sure that while we are tearing down these unfair systems, that we have something better to replace it. Because what is important about bringing people into the movement is showing them that a better world is possible, but we can't be I am definitely not a utopian about it. I'm very much a practical, pragmatic person about communism, and it is going to take a lot of labor. It's going to take a lot of work to actually build these things. So when I talk about building parallel structures, healthcare systems, we're already kind of working on that now. Mutual aid systems. Our anarchist comrades are great about that. Our anarchist comrades are actually great about filling in the gaps where the system has completely failed. And I think concepts like that are really, really important, especially when you're at the local level, because this country is gigantic. A lot of people fall through the cracks. And what we don't want to happen during our revolution is for people that we're trying to help to be left behind. So when I talk about communism having these big structures in place, it is so that we don't leave people behind.
No child left behind.
Yeah. Yeah.
George W. Bush was a communist.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't know it. No. Okay, Kappa. Okay, thank you for spelling that out for me. I appreciate that. You're helping my baby leftist brain.
Hell yeah.
Rara, fascinating stuff there. Okay, so we're talking about yeah, and actually you mentioned how you sort of you felt like you went through like an edgelord phase just because you
Yeah.
identified as communist, but I've actually heard that before, and it sort of makes sense because who else are like we're forced to sort of be like that. I mean, even me, I'm like 36 and I feel sort of like an edgelord saying I'm a communist, right? Like this is sort of just like the world we're given. You also mentioned Western hegemony, U.S. hegemony, and we're talking about imperialism, colonization, being from Guam, and building parallel structures. Really good shit right there. Okay, Rara, do we feel like we've exhausted this topic, your leftward bound journey?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
Excellent.
kind of the gist of it.
I thought that was wonderful. Now, hashtag be best, Rara. If you had the chance to go back in time, talk to a younger version of yourself, or just distill your life into general life tips or even leftist related tips, what might you share if given the opportunity?
I was definitely, so I think I would, if I was going back in time to at a particular time, it would definitely be to teenage me, to baby anti-capitalist me. And I would definitely say that, to myself, having beliefs is wonderful. Having an ideology is great.
Yeah.
But if you are not doing anything with that, it is kind of null and void and will never be as satisfying as actually building community, as actually bringing people into a movement and actually being a part of a movement. I think like especially American kids get very sucked into the individualistic aspects of political ideology to the point where there's a lot of like sectarianism on, in online spaces, and a lot of like very unforgiving attitudes towards people with other beliefs. And I'm saying this like people with other beliefs on, on the spectrum of the like ideological left. But I'd say like, yeah, like find your tribe, I if you really believe the things you believe in, find your tribe and start building it now. I like to give you some context on why I would give this advice. I really didn't start organizing seriously until I moved to Atlanta and I started doing stuff with DSA. I had like a little bit of organizing stuff here and there over the years, but I just kind of kick myself now because I feel like I was around really great activists and community organizations. And I didn't really take advantage of that. And I didn't really find where I fit in until much later in my 20s. So, like explore, figure it out, but do something with it. Do something with that belief. Otherwise, it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. Just having an ideology is something, but you won't be satisfied until you do something with it, until you help build your community, until you help move your cause forward.
Exactly.
Okay. Excellent advice, Rara. Beautiful. I wish I heard that long time ago as well. Excellent stuff. So, Rara, now we get to go on to the Leftist Inquisition. That's right. It's the questionnaire. Everyone loves it. No one hates it. Again, you can skip any question for any reason.
Okay.
All right, Rara. Our first question is, do you have a favorite word?
Oh, I do have a favorite word. Lackadaisical. It's always just it's a really fun word for what it is, and if you don't know what lackadaisical means, it means like lacking enthusiasm, like sluggish, whatever. I've always just loved that word. It's just very whimsical.
It rolls off the tongue as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you have a least favorite word?
Least favorite word. Oh God. I'd say I don't actually know the answer to that. I don't think I have probably slur. I don't know, some slur, but I won't say them.
Thank you. Yes, some slur.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know that
Fair.
one off the top of my head.
All good. Rara, do you have a favorite drug vice or guilty pleasure, or if you like, you can name one of each.
Okay, I have a really bad vice, and it is I just really love beef jerky. Like I know I know in my heart that eating animals is not great. It's not, it's not the best, and I know that red meat is not the best. But I just freaking love beef jerky. I don't know. I have kind of an oral fixation, and it just kind of hits all the spots.
At first, you're like, it's not good. And I'm like, yeah, it's really salty. And you're like, no, you're killing animals. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I recognize the need for, for consuming meat in different cultures and stuff. And from my cultural perspective, we eat a lot of meat, we eat a lot of fish. I try to like cut back on it, but I think that's the guiltiest part for me. But also, it's just not very good for you. It's so salty, and it's like it clogs your arteries. But whatever. That's my guiltiest vice. Oh, or I watch a lot of trash TV.
Yeah.
As my guilty pleasure, because I do a lot of intellectual labor and in my day, and a lot of research. I mean, you know what that's like. So sometimes I just want to watch something really fucking stupid, and I love me some trash TV. I love any kind of competition shows. Like I'm rewatching the entirety of America's Next Top Model right now, and it's total garbage, and it's probably bad for my brain, but I enjoy it. I don't even think you can say it's a guilty pleasure if you genuinely enjoy something, right?
What is the phrase? If you're enjoying the time that you're wasting, it's not wasted time. Something like
exactly,
that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I love it. I've had a couple people say, I don't believe in guilty pleasures, and I'm like, ooh, touche.
Yeah. Very philosophical.
I love it. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, you thought about it. All right, so Rara, next, is there a sound or noise that you love?
Oh, a noise that I love, that I've loved since I was a child, is like the wind coming through bamboo. My grandparents live at the bottom of like a valley on Guam, and it's like right near an old riverbed, and the riverbed's like totally grown over, and it doesn't fill up anymore, but there was a bamboo forest all around our house, and my bedroom was like right near the forest. So at night, you could hear the breeze moving through the bamboo and like knocking against each other and like going through the leaves. And it's still to this day like the most peaceful sound I can think of. And it's always like something I'm trying to recreate in my meditations. So, yeah.
Points for originality. We've had wind going through leaves of trees, but never bamboo. I like that one. Is there a sound, Rara, or noise that you hate, or if you get hung up on the word, or is there one that you intensely dislike?
Oh, I mean, like I think the standard nails on a chalkboard is pretty standard. Anything that's like really the sound I make when I stub my toe. Which happens every freaking day, it feels like. There's a very particular kind of sound that happens when I stub my pinky toe, and I can always, and it's coming from myself, like, ugh! And I'm like, oh yeah, I just really injured myself. So yeah, I'd say that.
I'm gonna clip that audio out of you making that sound and somehow wend that into my stream somehow. Love it. All right. Now, this is a good one. What is your favorite cheese? You get one answer unless you break the rules, in which case I can't stop you.
Okay, my favorite cheese, which I just tried like last month, is from Aldi. It's an Irish cheddar with Irish beer, and it's just like, it's so good. It's like just like rich and like dense. If you go to Aldi, try all their cheeses. I'm telling you, try them all. They're great.
You can get a spread. My partner and I love to go to Aldi. We get a spread of little, some charcuterie, and we go to town.
Excellent charcuterie selection.
Really good, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good call with the Aldi cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Points for thriftiness and just smartness.
I'm an Aldi gal all the way.
Oh my gosh, they do great work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, Rara, if you came back, if you were reincarnated as some plant or a non-human animal, and if somehow you were given the choice, what would it be? What would you come back as?
I've always been really fascinated with like the Marianas Trench. Guam is pretty close to it. And actually, James Cameron, I think, filmed some of the Titanic right near the Marianas Trench. So that was like a whole big thing on Guam. But I've always been fascinated by giant squids because their eyes get to like the size of like your face, and they get humongous. And ever since I was a kid, I was like always fascinated by that. So I think I'd be like a giant squid just floating around in the abyss. I think that'd be for me.
That's pretty badass. They're crazy. Very
they
rarely
get
seen.
I think they get like up to like 50 feet or something like that. They're gigantic. Yeah.
Unfathomably large. Okay, Rara, next. If at the end of your life you go to heaven and you're at the pearly gates and I guess God's there and God starts speaking to you, what would you like to hear God say to you?
I would hope that God looked exactly like Megan Thee Stallion and did like the little Megan Thee Stallion voice, like, eh, and then we both started like twerking, and then like I started twerking my way into heaven. So it's really more like another sound. Yeah.
All right. Again, points for originality. Love it. All right, Rara, who is an influential leftist, and they could be dead or alive, that you'd love to be able to meet and have a hypothetical conversation with, and feel free to let us know how that might go.
Yeah, it's funny. I've answered this question before, and I every time I'm like, maybe I should change my answer, but I like my answer, so I would pick Frida Kahlo.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, because she was like a communist, and she also dated Trotsky.
Okay.
And
I just learned two things.
Yeah. And so I think I find her to be extraordinary as an artist, and I think her life was extraordinary. And I think that she really lived so unapologetically and so in her own beliefs. And I just really love that. And I would sit down and talk to her about, first of all, we do a fashion show. I try on all of her skirts. And then she could, we would do each other's makeup, and then we would talk about communism, and we would just have a good time with it. I don't think I could ever seriously have a serious conversation with with anyone from history. I just want to do dumb shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Blunt smoking rotation for sure.
Yes.
Rara, I was just realizing, like, the libs love Frida Kahlo, but I think they just love her because of her, like, eyebrows. And they're like, you have such courage to go out there with your eyebrows like that.
Yeah. It's a very, like, girl boss feminism thing to, like, love Frida Kahlo and then completely just skip over the communist part of her, like, whole thing.
That literally sort of blew my mind there. Okay. Literally, figuratively. Now, Rara, next up, I gotta remove that graphic. Next up, yeah. Do you have a favorite leftist book or author or resource or whatever?
So it's always hard for me to choose a favorite. Yeah. But right now I'm reading The Society of the Spectacle by Guy Debord. And that has really been like completely mind-blowing. I am very much savoring that book. And I really, really highly suggest it to anyone who is looking for some, if you're even just dipping your toes into theory and you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing or what to read, that is a very easy thing to absorb. And actually, the person that recommended this, that kept recommending it, that I was finally like, all right, I got to pick this up, was Aaron.
I knew it.
From A Time of Monsters. Yeah, because he's always talking about it. And I was finally like, all right, I'll get it. And so I got it on my Kindle. And I downloaded it. But it is just very fascinating stuff. If we're all living in late stage capitalism in America. We are in the heart of empire, and anyone in the heart of empire should fucking read this shit, because it will literally, like, I really have a totally new way of describing what is happening around me, and in media and in the political landscape, in a way that I just didn't have before. So I highly recommend that book.
Excellent. It'll go on the Leftist and Chill reading list, which is growing longer and longer by the day. I'll never be able to catch up. Thanks. It's my fault for asking. Yeah.
Well, that book is like less than 200 pages, I think. So there you go.
That could be something good for me to read in the morning on my stream. Okay. Well, Rara, you're a content creator. This specifically asks for streamer tips. You can change that to content tips, podcast tips, what have you. What's important for beginning content creators or veterans to know? Or it could be lessons for one or the other or both or whatever. Yeah.
I'd say, like, I'm most popular on Twitter. That's like kind of where I like claimed my stake as far as social media. And, I started out a little differently though. Like, I started out wanting to wanting to be a successful comedian. So a lot of my stuff was through the lens of comedy. But I'd say, like, if you are trying to kind of gain traction on your projects or anything like that, I'd say a good mix of some curated content of yours that you're making, and then some lighter posts for, to add some levity, and, just like showing your personality, because anyone can, like, especially if you are someone that's not going to like have your true identity out there, like, you want to like showcase your personality a little bit, like tell us your hobbies, like, maybe you are like an online content creator, but maybe you have other hobbies too. You never know, like, what you're like. The more you tell your audience about you and let them in, like, the more they have to kind of like connect with you on. And but also it's completely okay to log off if you are frustrated and if you feel like you can't say anything without getting into arguments. This is not like a coward's way out at all. Like, the whole point of social media, like, is very warped these days, and you have to protect yourself. Like, you have to protect your energy and your time. And that is something I've had to learn a lot about. Especially if you want a huge following, like, you're going to have to be way, way, way more precious with your time and resources, because it will drain on you if you just let every little thing kind of drag you down. And so if you want to have any kind of like balanced, fulfilling life outside of the internet, just log off. Just log off sometimes, It's
wonderful advice.
Yeah.
Well, Rara, that is the end of the Leftist Inquisition. What we can do now is open it up to the chat if they have any questions for you. Oftentimes they do, oftentimes they don't. So don't take it personally if they don't say anything. I'll pass along anything that looks interesting that you may want to answer.
Cool.
Otherwise, Rara, we have some time. As long as you have time, I can ask you, what's grinding your gears? What's going through your mind these days? What are you thinking about? What do you want to talk about?
I guess. We have a question there.
I see. Okay, yeah. The favorite horror movie or thriller movies. That's Link's. That's their question.
Ooh, okay. Well, I am a fan of, oh gosh. So this is really hard because I watch a lot of films. I'll tell you my favorite horror movie that I've seen recently, because that is always like at the forefront of my mind. It's actually a horror comedy. It's from Japan. It's called One Cut of the Dead. And it is a fantastic movie. I think that I think that I haven't laughed harder in a movie in like probably like the past year. Oh, actually, that's not true. But as far as like horrors go, like, it's fantastic. It's so well done. It's got one of the best. Yeah, don't spoil it for anybody, but it's got one of the best twists like I've ever seen, and it's just from a filmmaking perspective, fantastic.
Awesome. Worth it for the subtitles. Some people get really hung up about the subtitles. I I don't care if it's a good movie. It doesn't matter. Okay, one cut of the dead. This looks fun. Maybe this will be a movie night kind of thing here.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. I'm not seeing. Oh, what's your favorite punk band and why is it Crass? Who's Crass? I don't know punk, so is it? I don't. That joke's over my head.
Yeah, Crass is like incredibly popular. Well, they're great. I mean, what else is there to say about Crass? But I'd say like probably my favorite contemporary punk band, I'd say right now is, and I don't even know if you necessarily categorize it as punk, but Mannequin Pussy. They have a female fronted singer, and she's fantastic, and it's a great blend of like feminine vocals and really badass like guitar and drums. They're an anarchist punk band is what.
Ooh.
Wait. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's Crass. But anyway, I should stop reading the comments.
That's cool.
But yeah, Mannequin Pussy, check them out. They're incredible. And their lead singer is also on TikTok and she's hilarious. So
cool. We talked a little bit about some hobbies that you have. Do you have an obscure or like a nerdy hobby?
I think it's kind of obscure. I don't know, maybe not, but I really love doing like physical like collage art, like paper collage. And I actually had an art show some years ago because I got in my head that I wanted to do that for a while. And I sold a bunch of pieces from that. But I find the medium of collage incredibly punk rock, and I think it has a capacity to be very anti-capitalist because it really is focusing on, you know, found materials, and that's my approach to it anyway. Actually, I think I have a picture of it here.
Hey, cool, yeah. Keeping that DIY spirit alive.
Yeah, this is
Indie
like
DIY. You love that.
This is like one of the cool things I have done.
Oh, another commie gun girl.
Yeah. Well, I used to work in a hair salon, and they would always have like a ton of magazines. And so I would just take all the magazines home because nobody would want them. And so I just started like cutting out pictures and doing collage. And I would love to get back into it when I have time. It is a really very fun hobby, and it's very, very fulfilling to just sit there and cut out a bunch of shapes and kind of slap stuff together. So, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I've done a little decoupage, a little collage in my life.
Oh.
It's a good time. A little Mod Podge, whatever that stuff's called. I've done it once or twice. It's nice. It's a lot of fun.
It is fun.
Okay. We were gonna ask you what's grinding your gears, and we were winding right up for that. If there was anything you wanted to talk about, we could do that, or we could wrap things up.
I want to end on a positive note, so I won't say what's grinding my gears right now. I want to leave y'all with a positive thing.
All right. Well, I guess that was the positive thing, right? Okay. I don't want to make sure I'm not cutting you off.
I love. Positive. Yeah, no, I love. I love art, and I would love to spend more time doing it. And if anyone's got some cool art for me to look at, you know where to find me on Twitter. So yeah.
All right. Well, Rara, we invited you here in the spirit of building leftist unity, strength, and power. We're planting seeds. I'm really hoping we have another time that we can meet again and chat and revisit the seeds that we planted and plant some new ones, etc. And we'll keep that going. Thank you so much for your time. You were a fantastic guest. You're a wonderful person. I love your face so much. Thank you for being with me. Yeah.
I had a great time. Thank you for inviting me.
Yay. Thank you, Rara. Peace and solidarity. Yeah. All right. That's okay. Don't worry about that. That always happens. That's my fault. All right, see you next time. Every time. That's Rara Imler. Hey, YouTube. You're watching a clip from my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/iDanSimpson, where you can follow for free and subscribe for only $5 a month. Thanks for watching.